coming here. Yeah, as I said, working for SolidFire. It's an all-flash company which has been acquired by NetApp, and the acquisition was closed in February this year, and I transitioned into this organization recently. But I've been working with NetApp for 10 years in various consulting and pre-sales roles. Yeah, maybe to illustrate a little bit of the history of the company, we were founded in '92 for storage. As a storage player, we took a different approach, which some of you might know, compared to the other competitors of us in the early '90s. We took a software approach, right? So basically what we've done, we've built a storage operating system called ONTAP, Data ONTAP. Our founders had a vision that data should be free-flowing, like beer from a keg. So we keep our software releases internally still branded with beer names, and the division product operations is called the brewery. But basically it's a software product sold initially with engineered hardware. We now see this breakaway where we take our software, allow you to run it on generic x86, and also in cloud. For example, you can run our software also in Amazon, and soon in Azure as well. So we have a broad spectrum of software deployment options, and this is basically also making these worlds compatible with one another, right? So if you have an x86 box, you have the same data management services as your engineered hardware in your centralized data center and towards the cloud. And this makes it possible to provide the same data management services across the various deployment forms. Service providers like LeaseWeb use our technology as well. So we basically are able to cover remote sites, your own private clouds, integration into the hyperscaler clouds and cloud service providers, and provide a common set of data management services. And our vision to go with software also applies to SolidFire. SolidFire is an all-flash array built from the ground up for the next generation data center. The design principles have changed also for storage. It took a bit longer than the rest in the data center stack, but still a new shared nothing architecture based on software. And yeah, basically what is a storage guy doing in a developer-centric audience? We all know DevOps, right? And development, engineering, quality assurance, and I'm here, right? I'm a storage guy. I do not pretend to be an expert on development or quality assurance and the work processes you are probably taking on a daily basis. But I want to illustrate the technology we provide from a storage perspective and how we can integrate into, let's say, the workflow, the development cycle of software. And how you can take advantage of the technology in an easy to consume way, because usually infrastructure is something which is could be blocking or it could be slow compared to the fast-moving world of software. So on the bottom land, you see basically the infrastructure component. On the upper side, you see a life cycle of software from the design, building towards the EOL of the software product. And basically, we provide various infrastructure components, right? So our SolidFire array, data on tap-based systems, we integrate with PaaS partners like Apprenda, but also provide plugins into Docker. I'll illustrate that a little bit more later on. And as you can see, as said, moving around data through the various locations, we use a protocol, SnapMirror, and we provide two ways to use, for example, hyperscaler or public cloud, right? In this example, we have a resources we can put close to the cloud, and there you can take advantage of the indefinite pools of resources like Amazon provides, like LeaseWeb provides. But also we allow you to run a software-only instance on top of Amazon in this case, right? And this provides a lot of flexibility for moving data around, use a single tool set across these worlds to manage the storage components there, right? And to build the ecosystem a bit further, we have, as said, the various storage platforms. Again, the solutions around hyperscaler cloud, the cloud service providers. But we provide for every platform we have, we provide a RESTful API, right? So there is an ability to use in a RESTful API to take advantage of storage-based functions like cloning, like snapshots, like quickly restore from snapshots. we are heavily integrated with our portfolio into OpenStack, right? We started from NetApp. We chaired the Project Manila for file services in OpenStack. We, from SolidFire, when Cinder was broken out of Nova, we basically started the Cinder project, and the SolidFire employees who wrote the Cinder driver are still working for NetApp now, or SolidFire. And yeah, if we need to have changes in the driver, we can feed these very easily back. But basically, this is the infrastructure, infrastructure as code. Software running on these boxes, being addressable through integration in OpenStack and RESTful APIs. We work with configuration management players. We're starting to work with Mesos, as said, Docker plugins, Apprenda, taking advantage of our cloning capabilities, for example. And there you see the software development tools. And this is one I would like to elaborate a little bit further on, which is Code Easy, which is basically the process and the tools basically we provide in our own product we have been using to develop our next generation software platform, which is shipping now, faster than previously, right? So the release cadence has been shrunk a lot using this. So it's Code Easy, technology for DevOps from NetApp. I think lines of code increasing, I think that's all common for all of us. But when software gets bigger, right, this becomes a problem, right? Build times, checkout times. For example, if you clone a Git clone, and you would have an environment of, let's say, 1 gig, and you decide to check in for 30 days, and you would clone such an environment, you would typically in OpenStack see rsync or xcopy happening, and then you could get a cup of coffee, right? And if you would check in the code, or planning to check in the code for the next 30 days, that 1 gig, you get a workspace of 30 gig, right? And that's a single workspace. And also, when you start building that environment to start making changes, this again takes a lot of time to do this. So when NetApp looked at this, typically our developers have 3 to 6 workspaces. And yeah, as said, we have 2,000 developers. And if you take the 1 gig example, it's quite a lot of storage, and it consumes a lot of time to create those environments. And this is where we had a look at our own technology, so NetApp Code Easy Storage. Usually at the start of each day, our developers would lose, let's say, 80 minutes to set up the environment. We started using hard links, and that saved a lot of time. But then we started using our cloning technology, right? And with our cloning technology, we're down to 2 minutes for creating an entire workspace. And we're speeding this up because the clone is instant, right? And it doesn't take any space. So also the infrastructure resources you need are very limited to create an environment, or maybe 10 or 20 environments. You don't need the excess amount of capacity, because if your source data set is a gig or a terabyte, a clone just takes 18 megabytes, and we're storing the changes separately, right? And we can really make it in a flip second, create a clone. And in the next step, we're evolving, and we're already piloting this internally, because it takes 2 minutes because of the changing of the ownership of the environment. And we're speeding that up as well, because the changing of the ownership happens host-based. And now we're making this happen at the storage layer to change the ownership of the files on whoever the workspace is going to own. So this saves a lot of time, and I wanted to show you a little bit what it looks like. So you have your code line. You use a tool like Jenkins for this environment. Create your build, and when it's a good one, you take a snapshot. And if you take a snapshot, which is instant, from that snapshot, you can create clones, right? And these clones don't take up any space, and they're instant. And therefore, you can have multiple developer environments, workspaces, and it doesn't cost any space, and you can create them very quick. So that's a lot of time savings. Also, when you check in new code, so after you have a good one, you take a snapshot, we do a quick, simple set of tests. If it's okay, we continue, and then you can do the more heavy tests and do the check-ins again. And as said, we have the various software incarnations, or if you would use NetApp systems at every location, you could use this as well, because we push out, let's say, all versions to other sites, because we have 5 development sites in the US, 1 in India, and continuously people are developing software, right? So they might use their own instance of Jenkins at the remote sites and sync the version numbers, because the snapshot basically is the basis which we move. It's a consistent environment, right? So in this case, you'll get the consistent environment propagated out and start cloning at the remote sites. So not moving a lot of data around, making sure a 2,000 people developer community can work together on a single product, right? So this is how we do it at NetApp. There's a toolkit available to do this. Is it hard to start? No, it's not. There is a toolkit available. You can download it from Git, but also from NetApp, support.netapp.com. It works with Perforce as well. Perforce has a download link on their own website to do this. It's written in Perl. It's very easy to adopt, well documented, and then you can actually immediately get going with this. So that's at the beginning, but also the basic function of a snapshot is also very useful, we think, to test your software, right? So if you have a well-known, good environment, well-tested, passes, and you want to continue testing, if you take a snapshot of the good state and you do your test, restore out of a snapshot is instant. So you don't have to copy or create or build your new environment again. So restore is instant out of a snapshot. So therefore, all of the copy time and creation time of such an environment is eliminated, right? And therefore, you can do more tests in less time, deliver your software at a higher quality, and run into the problems you might encounter much more quicker compared to environments that need to be recreated every time, right? Those are all functions, and we provide tools to integrate into your daily work environment. Another one, I already talked around this one, right? So you could start your development in the cloud. You have your infinite compute, in this case in Amazon. Azure works as well. LeaseWeb cloud resources can be used as well. But you can also have your own device connected to this environment. So your data would be on your device, on your storage array, and therefore you're able to use only the computer network capabilities in Amazon in this case. Or you would run a software-only instance on Amazon resources and taking advantage of the space-efficient cloning. Think of what that will do with your storage bill you get every month, right? And therefore you can push out again using our replication protocol to other sites and enable other people to work on the same project. So this is an example. I took 2 of them. So this one and the other one with the test and development cycle. But we have multiple of these. And yeah, the time is too short to go over all of them, but I wanted to share these with you. And overall, these are the benefits we've seen, right? So workspace creation, 60 times faster, right? Build completion, 60 times or 50% faster, and using a lot less storage. So in environments where you might be resource constrained in terms of the available petabytes or terabytes, right? You are able to do your work more flexible, faster, and consume less storage, and therefore do it at a larger scale, right? So those are the benefits we've seen ourselves, and we see our customers using our technology as well. Wanted to move quickly to SolidFire. As said, SolidFire is also a software vision or software product running on generic white box economics. Our founder from SolidFire, so we have Dave Hitz, who founded NetApp in the early 90s. Dave Wright founded SolidFire. And before he started the company SolidFire, he started a company called Jungle Disk. He sold this to Rackspace, basically a Dropbox type of solution. And he became responsible in the data center team for the next generation architecture and what it should look like. So you saw a lot of flexibility on the server and on the network layer, but storage was lacking behind. It was inflexible, and he was looking at the storage requirements, and this is the main list he came up. So it should be scalable, very granular scalable, guaranteed performance, so minimum, maximum performance. Management, automation, very important. Data assurance is clearly the availability of the device, and the global efficiencies is the storage efficiency. I won't talk about all of these elements, but I think the automation bit is something I would like to illustrate, right? So what you see here is the integration points. So native support in the Cinder driver. Our configuration file to integrate in an open stack environment is only 3 lines, right? So it's very fast to get going. As well as Cloud Stack, we have an SDK available, a PowerShell toolkit, and we provide a plugin for VMware. But what I really want to get to is this array was built only with an API, right? So no GUI, no command line, just a RESTful API. On customer request, we've put the GUI on top of it, right? And if you would provision a new volume or changes, right? But you would mount it to an account or specify an account, the size, and you can basically provision size and capacity in terms of performance in 2 different buckets. And they can be provisioned independently from one another. But where I want to go with this is you can actually see these boxes, right? So all the clicks you make in the GUI, if you tick those boxes, you get the exact API calls, right? And the responses you get from the array. So if you would take these and get these from your storage admin, you're able to directly address the RESTful API of the array and provision a new volume, create clones, but also change a developer environment which has limited amount of resource in terms of IOPS and promote it into production on the same infrastructure, standardized infrastructure, but just altering the performance metrics, allowing or guaranteeing more IOPS to be delivered by that volume, right? So it's just with a simple click or let's say a single API call, you can change this. So this is very powerful, and what we actually see is our arrays from a SolidFire portfolio are hardly ever touched. They're managed through OpenStack, through VMware, through Cloud Stack, or the toolkits we provide around it. So usually, when a storage guy is in the room, it's a harder sale for us to make this product attractive. Some other element I would like to highlight is the Docker integration. We had integration with Cluster HQ, right? So if you have a Docker container and a data volume, when you want to move it to another physical host, you will lose the storage, right? And this is the first step we've had, where we make the external storage, make it persistent, provide containers with persistent storage in an easy way. And this was through Cluster HQ, but we also have released a plugin for Docker. We actually announced this on our blog, on our website today, and allows you to completely address, also using Docker commands, external storage. You have a choice in NFS and iSCSI. NFS is, in terms of sharing, a bit easier. There is a plugin. I urge you to have a look at it if you are working with it, because it's very easy to use. Similar, we have it available for SolidFire platform as well, right? So providing the same capabilities. In addition to what you just saw, it's block only in this case, but you can specify the QoS as well and create new LUNs, new volumes, clone them, and you never would have to touch the array itself, just be able to address the API through the Docker lens. So I'm not sure where I am on time. I see a little bit less than 10 minutes. I rushed a little bit through the conversation. So yeah, this is our focus from a NetApp perspective, right? So we have continued to invest in OpenStack. We continue to provide RESTful APIs at every platform we offer. So we only talked around a NAS platform and a block platform, but we provide object storage as well. So integrations through the S3 protocol in the Swift driver. And see the ecosystem partners will continue to build integrations into Docker and in all layers, if you will, all tool sets you provide, either through open source approaches. And basically cloud first, whether it's on-premises cloud, built on top of a SolidFire product, or using service provider clouds like LeaseWeb's or the Microsoft or Amazon clouds. So this is where we focus and continue to focus. We learn a lot ourselves, but we're still learning as an organization as well to make sure our technology is really benefiting in the developer world, if you will. So I included a few links in this environment, so where you can get our code on our open source code, the plugins, some blogs around the technology we provide. So yeah, with that, I would like to see if there are any questions. I have a few more minutes left. Does it make sense? Is it something you could benefit from? Or shall we leave it?
No questions?
Okay, well,
Good.
thank you for...
Thanks, Wessel.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
I'm curious.